My name is Preston, and my friends call me PT.
Hi, nice to meet you, Preston. PT. We wanted to talk today about a very fitting topic, something that many of us have encountered, or we know someone who's encountered, but we're not at a point where we are willing to talk about it, but definitely something that has plagued our community and something that we need to have an open, candid conversation about. So we want to thank PT for coming out and spending time with us and sharing with us his story. We're going to talk today about substance use, substance abuse, and the like of that particular subject. PT, can you just share with us a little bit about your background?
I am a recovering addict. I have been sober for 32 years by the grace of God. I've used the simple tools of Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous to work with a sponsor and a support group to maintain a clean and sober lifestyle. I've made the choice to be free of drugs and alcohol. Some people say you got to do something. And I look at this as that it's something that I want to do and that I get to do.
Awesome. So when you were actually in the throes of your addiction, did you have a particular drug of choice, or were you pretty much using whatever you can get?
My drugs of choice were marijuana and cocaine. I had used other drugs as well.
Okay. And in terms of the way you became familiar or introduced to drugs?
Through college, peer pressure. First started using marijuana, which some people call the gateway drug. Never in my wildest imagination did I think I would go to using cocaine, but that did occur, and it progressed on from use to abuse to addiction.
Awesome. So how long would you say you used once you started using?
From I'd say the mid-70s to 1989.
Okay, so you used for a little while there. What was like a day in the life when you were at the bottom of your addiction? What was a day in the life? Short form.
Short form. Other part of my issues were that I not only sold drugs, I used drugs, but I sold drugs. So a day in my life would be selling drugs, a constant cycle of selling drugs, looking to re-up to get more drugs, and using drugs myself. My addiction said it was a good idea to reward myself by getting high because I made some money. And the worst time I had, I think the second or third time I overdosed, I thought I might have a problem. And note I said I might have a problem. I did not admit to myself that I did have one. At that time, I had no knowledge of NA, AA, or no A. But the overdose scared me enough that I stopped smoking cocaine. But I still kept drinking and drugging and snorting cocaine. But I started selling more and more drugs, which put me in a position where I was arrested. And that was the lowest point in my life. I thought that I was in a nightmare that I could shake my head and it would go away, but it didn't.
Would you say that was your rock bottom experience?
Yes, I would say that was my rock bottom.
What type of emotions did you experience during that time? Do you recall?
Fear, shock. How did this happen to me? The manner of this disease of addiction, you think that it's not going to be you. You're not going to be that person. And then based on your choices and your actions, you end up being that guy, or that girl. And I can still remember the hotel room I was arrested, I was busted in. I know what was on the television when they busted in the door. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the worst experiences of my life.
Would you say, or how would you classify or identify the three things that you saw or experienced that were the most horrific during this time?
I've seen or heard of people doing things I would never imagine. Saw a lady that was pregnant inject herself with cocaine. Heard stories of a girl pawning a child for cocaine. I saw people pawn their vehicles for cocaine. Things that to most everybody else would seem incredible. Unfortunately, it's more frequent than you might imagine.
How did you support yourself during this time?
I sold drugs. That was my source of income. I did have used to have a convenience store. And though I never sold any drugs from the store because it was a place where people their kids came in, and I started as being an honest business. It was not a cover, it was something I really wanted to do. And I had that store for 6 years.
Okay. And would you say that drugs and alcohol use and abuse, addiction, affects one social group over another, or does it affect all?
It affects all. Addiction is an equal opportunity offender. It doesn't care if you're rich, poor, your nationality, your creed, anything. It affects one in 4 or 5 people in this country. And every 5 minutes in America, someone dies due to drug and alcohol addiction.
Wow. In terms of your clean and sober days, how long have you been totally clean and sober?
Since 1989, I got busted in '89. Before I went to started going to court, I was stressing out, and I told somebody I was snorting cocaine and smoking weed and talking to myself in my backyard. I was so nervous I broke out in hives, and I went to the probation officer, and I was trying to fake the drug test, but they told me, said, I did. I changed my mind. I didn't, and I tested positive for marijuana. So the guy said, if you test again like this, we're gonna lock you up. From that time, that day, I never used again. And so that's where my journey started in sobriety.
And in terms of your mental health and physical health, what impact does drugs have on your mental health?
Mental health, cocaine itself affects you a lot mentally. You will fool yourself. You'll rationalize your disease. You'll say, well, I deserve to do this. I earned this. With an addict, one time is too many, and a million times is not enough. And the thing is that sometimes you'll stop a while and say, well, I'm going to just hit a little bit. There's no such thing. The best analogy I can give is my off switch is broken. There are some people that can drink and use drugs recreationally. I'm not that guy. My off switch is broke. But I accept it, and really I embrace it now. Mentally, between paranoia and prison, I experienced depression. I didn't realize what it was at first. But you're down on yourself. You reflect all the mistakes that you made. And it's a horrible thing to go through.
What would you say to those that are out there that are home, that are experiencing any type of addiction? Not just, we're talking about drug addiction, but an addiction is an addiction.
Yeah.
And what would you say to those people that are at home, giving them words of wisdom and encouragement?
Get help. You can't do this by yourself. I can't stay clean and sober by myself. I have friends, associates that I keep in contact with, and you could call them accountability partners, but these folks they know me. I believe everybody has someone in their life that they can talk to that knows them well enough that if you're not right, if you don't sound right, they know something's not right. It takes more than just yourself to overcome any addiction. Your disease wants you to be quiet and die. That's the best way I can put it. So you can have a great quality of life. Life is going to have its challenges, but you can face them so much better with being clean and sober, or away from whatever your addiction of choice is, and establishing a solid relationship with your higher power, which I call God and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I can't make it without Him. I choose not to make it without Him. And I look at it like I get to do this.
And my final question would be, if you could tell or talk to drugs as a whole, what would you say to drugs?
The drugs, stay away.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be here.